Let's call the meeting to order. And we'll go by that, Mickey, which says 7:02. Ask Ricky if you'd please call the roll. And I'll explain that Mr. Bassett is not here. He's attending to his wife who is in the hospital following some surgery.
Thomas Wood, Martin Mannix,
Here.
Michael Cashman,
Here.
Gerard Renadette,
Here.
James Coffey,
Here.
Rick Collins.
Okay. And Mr. Wood is in the building. And as this is a work session, it is a time for public comment. Rick, do you know if we have anybody signed in for public comment? I forgot to pick that up.
This is a real public.
No, I mean, it didn't sign. You want them to sign in?
Thank you very much.
No?
They don't need to sign in.
You want them here as employees or whatever?
They're on the agenda.
Okay,
I'm
well,
on the clock.
usually
I'm
they
on
have
the
them
clock.
sign.
They're on the clock.
They're on the clock. First order of business, Steve Imhoff.
I'm one of many tonight.
Okay.
First one is the conference for Lake Placid for Alan and myself. I believe you guys picked up from our accounting department some numbers that Pat ran for Alan and I to stay and then for us to travel. And hopefully you guys also picked up the town of Plattsburgh town policies that Mr. Collins updates on travel guidelines. Did you guys get both of those? You guys have time to review some of the numbers, why we do stay there, why we don't. So we usually do this every 3 or 4 years, go back and forth for the reasons why we stay there, not only for the time of year, March, traveling back and forth and leaving times, but after you pay overtime, comp time, travel time, it's actually cheaper because we get such a discounted room rate that it actually saves the town money. You can look at our accounting department did a breakdown of the numbers, very detailed, going back and forth, and used the, I think it's the state's travel, 50 cents. I think it's 50 cents instead.
IRS 56.
56 cents, so, sorry. We did those expenditures and kind of broke them down for you guys. If you had any questions.
Yeah, I got several of them, Steve.
Okay.
First of all, you're taking town vehicle,
That is correct.
so the 56 cents a mile doesn't even compute. We don't even worry about that. Doesn't cost us 56 cents a mile to send our own vehicle.
Okay, so the gas doesn't count for anything?
Nope,
We don't-
not if we're not paying 56 cents per mile for gas in that vehicle. We pay $3 and something a gallon, and hopefully we get somewhere near 20 miles to the gallon for the vehicle. Okay, so the 56 cents doesn't compute. All right? Next question I have is on comp time.
Yep,
You've got all those hours of comp time now.
that is correct.
Your agreement calls for comp time once you exceed 40 hours. Doesn't call for comp time once you exceed 8 hours, calls for comp time after you exceed 40.
That is
So
correct.
no comp time will be paid unless you exceed 40 hours for that week.
That is correct.
We can ask you to take Friday off and you'll never exceed 40 hours,
Sure.
okay? Same thing with Steve. Steve doesn't get comp time
Alan.
unless, or Alan, excuse me. Alan doesn't get comp time either unless he is called in on his or her day off for a meeting.
Yeah.
All right, he's gonna be going during his regular work day for that. What I've taken a look at is, okay, 51 miles is what I got off from the GPS from the town office to the Crown Plaza.
That is correct.
Okay, I'm guessing 1 hour travel time each way. All right? Taking on Sunday, there's no classes. Sunday's open registration.
Yeah, I go on Sunday as the vice president of the Northern Adirondack. part of my deals is to check everybody in for registration. Usually go up there for 5 to 6 hours, make sure we have 200, probably 200 guests that check in, make sure they're in, vouchers, state stuff, going back, go up there to make sure everything runs good. That's mine, that's not Alan's
Right.
on Sunday.
That's not for the town of Plattsburgh,
I represent the town of Plattsburgh.
but it's not for the town of Plattsburgh,
Okay.
all right? Monday, you have 1 hour off for lunch, Tuesday, 1 hour off for lunch, Wednesday, you have 1 hour off for lunch. We don't pay for lunch, okay? Here's what I personally would be in agreement with, and that is that you are the town's representative, according to this, you're second vice president. You hold some esteem, some rank with this association. I would be willing for one person to stay, exclusive of Sunday night. So Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, one room, and then the other person has to travel. That's what I would be willing for. I think that that's a good middle of the road. We meet you halfway, you meet us halfway. We have always in the past, with the exception of one counselor who's objected, we've always let both of you go. We've always foot the bill. This has been a rough year as far as I'm concerned. And if that's not acceptable, then I'm gonna stick to my vote of no, okay?
That's perfectly fine now. When you say it's a rough year, what, do you have any idea how much it would cost to go to New York City?
We've cut back the numbers of people who've gone to New York City. We've never once told both you people you couldn't go there for training.
Totally understand, but one person going to New York City would exceed both of ours going to here. So being fiscally responsible, I think this one starts with being fiscally responsible and sending us both there. You know, traveling back and forth, putting people on the roads in March, when typically a snowstorm, that's second. You know, this, if you're traveling back and forth, you know, it's nothing personal, Gerard. I know it's a tough time, but if we said in New York City, once, one person, any of you guys go, we have mandated training we have to do, you guys don't. One person goes, it would exceed what it would take for both of us to go there and stay there. So that's being fiscally responsible, one, is my opinion. Two, if we miss one day by traveling because of inclement weather, now we're traveling again someplace else to try to receive that 8 hours that we miss a day.
Can you get this accreditation in New York City?
Not 24 hours, that's the problem. I can get all 24 hours in 1 week period. In New York City, you can probably get 16 to 18 and then still have to travel.
So what you're saying is you're trying to compare this to the trip to New York City, where you would not be going to New York City because you wouldn't get the accreditation you need anyways.
I wouldn't get
You're
all
pretty
the
much,
hours.
you're pretty much stuck that you have to go to this.
Or travel to Buffalo, Rochester. There's 4 other conferences trying to be fiscally responsible that offer start to finish. You can go there and get the full 24 hours. There's only 4, I think there's 4 if you count Rockland County down in New York City. The rest of them, you piecemeal. So you go here, you travel for this day. You go here, you travel for 8 hours. Or if it's a 2-day course, you get 16 hours. Here, they offer everything one time, done for the week, and you're done for the year. And going back to your first part of, you can ask us to take Friday off. Picture being out of the office for 4 days, and then the town says, all right, on the 5th day, Steve's not here. Do you know how, it was usually that Friday that we come back is so booked with people. They're so, I won't say perturbed, they understand, but there's still things that have to be answered, questions, the whole deal. At what point in time is that being redressed, of putting us back and not trying to be responsible for
Well,
taxpayers?
we had a time a year or so ago where I believe both of you were out. Alan was out on an injury. You were out. I forget what it was, but, you know, there have been times, and the town has survived. We're talking about 1 week, and we're talking about a situation, one time in the last 5 or 6 years that I can remember, where the town board said, no, we're gonna insist on you traveling this year. And then we get a letter saying that, well, if you make me travel, there's gonna be all this comp time, there's gonna be this mileage time.
That's not
there's gonna
from
be-
us, that's from our accounting
Okay,
department.
well, the accounting
you
office
have.
was wrong, and I sent a letter to the accounting office asking for the agenda, the agreements, and the travel policy so that I could look at it myself.
See, and I'm not saying that, he disagrees with you that there is a cost associated with that fuel, that there is there, and that's his expertise that came out here. This is not Steve's, this is from your accounting department. This
Okay.
is the man that runs the accounting department.
Okay, and I would argue with him just like I'm arguing with you.
And I won't even say it's an argument, it's a discussion, that, you know, that's Steve didn't make these numbers up. This is came, say, hey, run me, if we go back and forth, apples to apples, oranges to oranges.
Okay.
That's without going into any of the other factors, the people that we associate with there. I sit with Ron Peaster, Division of the Head of Codes. I sit with Julie Niedermeyer, who's the second in Division of Codes. By our personal relationships that we gang up there, you know, there's 3 or 4 people from the state that helped negotiate a $50,000 contract if Laurentian ever did come. Those are things that you just can't get.
With all due respect, I have acknowledged that the networking is valuable. I have conceded that I would be willing to allow one person to go, preferably you, okay? I think that Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, you can get enough networking done with all the people there. If you want to go on your own Sunday night, I would be so bold as to say we'll pay for Sunday night, which I think is overstepping our bounds, because I think at that point you're representing the association and not the town. But I would be willing to even go that far, because I think networking has value. But I will not agree to it if that's not acceptable to you. If it's all or nothing, I'll say nothing. Okay?
Steve, I want to unpack it a little bit from my perspective. Working over at the college and being involved in professional associations, there's usually some type of professional understanding that, you know, a certain amount of work, release time, phone calls, you know, on behalf of the associations that you're involved with, et cetera, et cetera. Is there any formal agreement between the town and your position with the association?
What do you mean formal?
Something that acknowledges that there's a certain amount of work release time given.
That's the hour lunch that we don't get paid for. That's when Marie gets us for 1 hour, so we got a scarf for lunch down, I go sit in the lobby, we have a laptop that we bring, so the hour that I get for not eating, we do emails, phone calls, this is what happened, tell them we'll set this up.
But I'm talking about you serving as the vice president for this association. Is there any agreement between the supervisor, the former town board, and you taking on those responsibilities for the association?
No,
Okay.
it's an elected position.
Okay, well, and that's fine, and there's lots of those. What I would recommend for this board in the future is that if our employees want to participate in professional associations and networking, I think that there's a certain added value to that. But I think there needs to be an adopted understanding of what we're giving. You know, if you're going to leave early and there's a room or a value, there has to be a sense of a compromise to what that is, so we know what the added value is going to be, and if, you know, that there's a general understanding, like, hey, we know you're going a day early. It's going to be the cost of a hotel. It's no more travel. You're just going a day early because you're still going to the same direction. So I'm interested in hearing other people's perspectives, but as of right now, I'm laying kind of a future solution out there for part of the discrepancy that Gerard is bringing forward.
I understand what Mike is saying, and I think it's part of the growing nature of the town of Plattsburgh. I think, you know, you're one of the first people that we've had in the town who's held an office within their professional association. So I think what we're faced with now is, okay, that's all good, and, you know, we can give Phil Carell, we can charge Phil Carell with coming up with a policy for that. That'll be good for Phil. Okay, but I think what we're charged with at this point in time is how do we accommodate the situation that's before us? And I would agree with you in spades that there's no comparison between what we're presented with by way of the expense associated with the two of you in Lake Placid compared to what would have happened had we been confronted with the expense of sending the two of you to New York. There's just absolutely no comparison cost associated there. I also think that, you know, the amount of time that's spent, you know, that you would spend on a Sunday involved in because of your position with the firm in assisting with the operation of the seminar and the registering of people, et cetera, like that. That's part of a service that I would think as a town we're going to support because we want you to be an officer in an association, and we want you to be doing the networking that you're doing. I'm not speaking for other people at this table, I'm speaking for myself when I say that. So that's kind of the perspective that I'm coming at. I don't know, Tom, if you've got any.
Did you guys also get the town guidelines for travel policies?
I have not,
And how
I
that
did not
relates to,
receive that.
the official travel rules, if you look at number 2, says employees will not be allowed meals or lodging within 35 miles of employees' official station places of residence.
Mhm.
Any employee traveling status employs an official business at a distance not more than 35 miles, designated official station of workplace, and I believe you said it was
51
miles.
Right, that's why I've got no problem with the meals. Because you're entitled to it, it's over 35 miles.
So, either way, even if you took out, just so you know when you say compromise, even if you took out Sunday, you know, it was, take out Sunday, 6 hours of comp time. What are we really discussing? Did you break down the numbers between if you took off travel and if you took off, say, the 6 hours of comp time? We're down to 1,100 to 1,000. So we'd still be in a positive of $100 more to travel.
I took allowing 2 hours each day of comp time, all right, for you, at $179.52. 2 hours each day of comp time for Alan was $139.26. $120 for the meals comes to $438.78. Okay, as opposed to, what was the hotel cost? The hotel cost was $618.
So if my math's correct, take away 400 from 1,600, so it'd be $1,200 to travel compared to 1,000 to stay there. So
You're still putting in the mileage in there, Steve.
So take out the mileage. Now, what we're talking about, take out the mileage.
Mhm.
And now where are we at?
1400. I believe.
No.
That would be the 688, the 591, and 120.
You've got, I did,
Am I doing it right?
all I looked at, okay, is, it's 618, I don't know where I got 718, my math was way off. $618 for the hotel as opposed to what we were going to pay you to travel. Okay, all things being equal, it costs us less to make you travel than it does to have you stay in the hotel room.
Boy,
And if we only pay for one hotel room, you increase that by another $309, the savings.
I would like you to confer with Pat with your numbers and your
I'd be
addition
glad to.
before there, because even we took out some of those because of the conversations, and he still came out in a positive that it would still, without the mileage, and without, we didn't do the extra overtime because lunch, if we go, I'm not arguing over 30 minutes of lunch, to be honest with you. And would I ever ask, it comes down to, would I ever ask Alan to go back and forth? I could see if there's no snowstorm, there's nothing, it's one thing. But when you start putting in 4, 12, 14-hour days driving back in a snowstorm, it's not worth it. Pay for a room, whatever. But even if you did Pat's numbers, we still came out 100, using your taking away those two, his numbers were still $111 more to travel than to stay.
I'll make arrangements to sit down with Patrick. I still believe that the way I'm looking at it is a little bit more realistic than what was presented to us. I think Patrick's making a mistake too. I'd be willing to sit down and argue the fact with him. What I'm concerned about right now, because it was relayed to me earlier, that board action from last time, basically the room was canceled, and now you need to make arrangements. If you're going to be staying, you need to reserve.
No, it's reserved. They allowed us because we packed that hotel, and I won't say who we are, but we arranged all the things. I said, Steve, we'll reserve the room. It didn't have to be paid or not. We didn't lose the room. It's still
Okay.
reserved under the town.
So we still have some time to finish the discussion.
That's what gave us this discussion, to be able to get these numbers. And they're all valid points, Gerard, and we know fiscal responsibility in our office. We cut $30 from our phone bill. You know, we did this or that. We did what it took, so it's nothing personal, and I totally understand fiscal responsibility. But that same aspect, when you're still $100 more to travel with your thinking, I still, if you're spending more to try to get less,
I
what are we
understand
really
that.
accomplishing?
And Stephen, if I'm wrong, I'll make a statement to the press.
I don't need a statement to this.
Okay, I'll
You
make,
know,
I'll
that's
make
not-
arrangements, I'll make
I
arrangements.
think it's already there. If you look to your left, it will already be there.
I'll make arrangements to
Right.
sit down with Patrick, and I will find out, okay? And, because the board's gonna have to act on another resolution, seeing as how we shot it down
Yep.
last Monday. We're gonna have to act on another resolution, so it's gonna have to be taken up next Monday, unless we hold a special meeting of some kind. Next Monday's out of the question,
Totally understand. To
Vice
argue
next
over,
Monday, another question.
because that's when the Association of Towns is, there's no meeting.
President's Day too.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, so that's a difficult part when we're talking $100, $50
Yeah.
swing, that we're taking so much time over $50
if it's that close, if Patrick can convince me that it's that close, then I might be able to change my mind, but we had to make tough decisions last fall. We were cutting $100, $200, $300 items. And to say that, you know, I'm glad you didn't say it, but to say that, well, the conference is in my budget, which you didn't say. I don't wanna hear that, because just because the money's in your budget doesn't mean
Gerard, I
you have
agree
to
with you.
spend it.
Dollars
So-
and cents though, when, like,
Right.
if dollars, if it's spending more to accomplish the same thing,
He has to do 24 hours of continuing education.
I
Do
understand
we
that,
have him
Marty.
do it in Lake Placid, or do we have him do part of it in Lake Placid, and part of it in Buffalo?
No, he can get it all in Lake Placid, but he doesn't have to spend the night. That's the total argument. That's the total argument as far as I'm concerned. He doesn't have to spend the night. And again, I'm only one vote, but I would suggest that we don't have all 5 members here tonight.
We don't have to have 5 members to have a vote.
Okay, because if one other person sees it my way, then the whole thing gets shot down. I would say we hold this, a vote on this, until the next time that the full board is meeting.
Do we have a calendar? I did not bring a calendar.
The next one will be the
24th.
24th of this month.
I mean, to me, I'm concerned with the numbers are just not adding up overall. So it's becoming that he said type of situation. And I trust the value in the work that you do and appreciate that, particularly having sat behind the bench in ZBA and seeing you work with, you know, the community and so on and so forth. And I think that the board also has a responsibility to develop that relationship for any of our employees to get involved in professional associations. I think that's what we owe to you folks, to negotiate and have that conversation. But the numbers to me are not adding up right now. And I think I would rather err on the side of conservative measures, you know, to make sure that we're being responsible at that level, because you're right. Could you have to go somewhere else? Yes, but the chances are, though, you're not driving in a small little car. You know, we've
2 years we played this game, that when we decided, 2 years we got snowed out. Last year, it was the snowstorm of Everett. Alan and I missed 8 hours. We ended up traveling to get those 8 hours that we missed, and we're late the next day because it's the Notch, it's Wilmington. So it ended up costing more because we couldn't get there. The year before, I had to respond all the way back to 2 years ago to a fire that I think it was a fire that responded back. I missed out on time, ended up having to travel. The city guys do play this game. They're the only other ones in the city that play this going back. It never works out. They end up traveling, and it ends up costing the city more. So there's a reason, and there's some value behind staying there. It's the North Country, it's winter.
Oh,
So
I'm not
there's other
disagreeing. I'm not
outside
disagreeing
ones.
that there's possible value there. All I'm saying is the newest member of the board that, you know, is trying to understand the framework of which we have to view things through. I want to understand why the accountant office is not providing the numbers the way in which they should be accurately reflected, and/or I want to see them from the perspective of that tells the complete story, that can support sending an employee there in the weather, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, it's a numbers thing. It's not a personnel thing.
The sheet that we got from the accounting office, you don't think is accurate, is that what you're saying?
I don't look at it the way Steve is looking at it. I don't look at it the way I think Pat looked at it. When I see 8 hours of regular time, it looks like Monday's 8 hours of regular time, 8 hours of comp time? Is that the way this is presented, Steve?
Where are you seeing 8 hours?
I've got on my sheet, the top of it, Monday, 3/3/14. It's got 8, and then it's got 8, and those hours under comp hours are tallied up to a total of 23 for the 5 days, Sunday,
No,
Monday,
that's-
Tuesday.
That's Alan, myself. You go across
You
Sunday,
double them
Alan's
up.
not going, so, me is the 6 hours on Sunday, then, those are regular
4 each.
hours. If you see that, I don't know why he's got 4 and 4 though.
Yeah,
Again, it's just, the numbers are not completely falling into place.
because I've got,
Can I interrupt and ask a
Yeah,
question?
sure.
Only in, time. Do we have a problem, Steve, if this is settled on the 24th?
No, there's no issue. We should talk about it.
because I
And I
would like to
think
sit
that's
down with them, and I'll send a letter to everybody with what I found, because I've been the most vocal, and, you know, I'll correct any
Well, I
misconceptions
think
that
what
I've
we're
got.
gonna do is we're gonna ask Pat to redo his numbers, okay? You meet with him, and-
Okay.
but we'll have Pat redo his numbers, and then I think on the 24th, people will have proper numbers to make a decision. And I think there is you know, it should not come down to, are we saving $100 or not saving $100? I mean, that's, in my opinion, you know, you gotta look at what you're asking a couple people to do, if you're gonna save $100,
Mhm.
okay? So I think that, you know, we ought to be able to come up with a decision. Yes,
On the split concept, you would have 2 cars going back and forth then, right? Because Alan would have to be coming back and forth while Steven stays up there.
You'd have one vehicle.
No.
well,
Unless,
not if you agreed to send him up on Sunday.
if you, but either way, you're gonna have 2 vehicles up there. If Steve goes up on Sunday and stays for the whole time, Alan's gonna have to go up there
He's
That's
going
true.
Monday.
to stay for the whole time. So now you've got 2 fleet vehicles that are staying there for the whole time.
Actually, it's not.
If Steve agreed to, if Steve didn't go up on Sunday, they could both go up on Monday, and Alan could commute back and forth with the one vehicle.
Okay.
Just I was wondering how that
Well, I think
So I
we'll-
think all that can be worked out. It's just, you know,
Next one, Phil, I'm good, we can pass this one, it's, who's
Okay.
next on the agenda? 'Cause I want Phil.
no, next, let's see
Oh,
what
is it, hold on.
the agenda is. The next one on the agenda actually is Brian. Sorry about that, Phil.
could be a long one, when you sit up there.
You know me too well, Brian.
Yeah. And then a few management meetings too.
All right, I've already put my number down, I already put my number on the table.
contact.
Brian's got the under number compared to Phil's. Okay? Okay? Brian, you're up.
Oh, I'm just, I had supplied, Tom has, is no longer in effect, that we were looking for a data collector contract, and you requested RFP. So we sent out an email to 12 potential that had the criteria, scope of work criteria, to do my work or to do the collection of fiscal data in accordance to New York State Office of Real Property Tax Services guidelines, of which only one bid came back in. One verbal said, no, thank you, but keep me in mind for the future, and I think the other 4 were emails that you have attached with it, with my works, with papers.
So they need more time to do it, or they?
Basically, Bonanno Municipal Assessment Services needed to know what the actual hard physical count would have been. And that physical count is actually predicated on the price per job. And Gar Associates needed more time to make March 1st, which is taxable status day, but my goal here wasn't to have X number of parcels done by March 1st. My goal is to collect the new construction commercial-wise especially, get somebody to do that, because I'm out of physical data collection into evaluation part of my year. So, basically, I follow building permits, right? And you have two guys in the building inspector's office running like crazy, and then I'm cleaning up whatever they've done. So you've got two running one way, and one guy trying to part-time keep up with them. I run short on data collection. So we've been contracting out in order to both appease some guidelines set by the state and to keep up with the inventory changes that have been taking place, as well as the maintenance agreement that we're supposed to be involved in with New York
You
State.
have to do all of them physically within 6 years.
We are technically, New York State wants to have all parcels feet on the ground, on site, within a 6-year time frame. Yes.
So you started, and that's what we did last year with a part-time person that.
We are working at,
And they've made, we did 1/6, but we still got to continue it each year in order to be able to have all that done.
Yeah, the completion.
right, and so some are being done by myself as like the sales come in, the pile comes up, I manually, physically go and look at all those houses myself, because they're gonna be part of the valuation set sequence.
And how does this compare with the contract we had last year?
The contract before you is actually identical, except for the hourly rate. I asked for an hourly rate in order to collect something like Lenny's Shoe and Apparel, to go and site review that for $50, but then to have nothing on a card or no sketch, no anything like that. It's a 3-hour job. It's not a $50 job. A review of something that's already in front of you is a different story as compared to building it from ground up. And so he would take plans and specs that thankfully Phil has in the office, the as-built as they're called, and he'll put it in a system for me so that we can, Sharon myself, probably, Sharon keys them in, and then they come up, and then I'll put value on them.
The hourly rate is not 35, it's 30.
It's 30. The contract that you had prior was, he did sharpen his pencil, is $30 an hour, but the parcel rates are the same. Now, the last,
That'll be changed in the contract.
the GAR and Municipal Assessment Services did provide quotes which you had seen. You said they were outdated. I could pretty much assure you those quotes have not changed for what they do professionally. They would be 75 and 55 respectively.
For this price, not to exceed 30,000, will they be able to do all the work you want done?
They will get, to do 917 parcels in a year would require 32, but we're not getting up to 900. We get pretty close to the 700. Yeah, and it would, once we roll into the commercial, I won't get as much done, obviously, because it's $15 more a parcel. Now, for me, it's important to at least get some of this, like the commercials, I'm also using, we have the photometry, so I'm able to go in, walk around the facility, and I can measure via that as well, and physically go, because like the FedEx building, I went around that, and it was like, ooh, there's things here, so I went back and noted it on scratch paper, and then went back and used photometry to pick up the measurements of all the the loading dock doors and all that kind of stuff that should be on the card for valuation. I'm here to respectfully ask that we move this so that I can get the guy into the field tomorrow, or Wednesday, whenever we can finish setting up the contract and have Jim review it and then be signed. Going to the 24th is viable, but not because my fiscal status day is March 1. That's the day that I'm supposed to take a snapshot of the whole town, and that's where valuation takes place for March 1.
Do you have a copy of the contract?
No, we haven't, I've modified the one that was presented to you in January.
All right,
It'd be identical
I'd
to that,
say
other
that.
than the value.
okay.
Scope of work was taken out.
Everything's the same.
Except for the $30, it's 35.
Yeah, so I'll
Just make
have,
sure you check that.
well, I would have a fresh contract. He's gotta sign a fresh contract, dated, fresh date. and all that.
And we do have a resolution in our package, 14-72.
Yeah.
We need to do 14-71 first?
Yeah.
We will. And just pointing out that we have a resolution, so that when we go to do resolutions, we'll be looking at that resolution. So, and some other questions to ask, we will get those asked, so that we're prepared to deal with that. Okay?
Any other
questions for Brent?
You made the attempt to try and get more than, or the required number of bids?
I selected,
More than.
every qualified appraiser who knows how to measure and could do it in our community, in our multiple listing system. Bruce Valley is a former assessor, he knew him. Jerry Rosenbaum knows. Derek is actually a former, he knows. Then I selected Gar, who is probably nationally known for it. And then I went through the 518 area code so that distance wouldn't be an issue to their bid. Because once we start it, but even Albany to here, it gets expensive for that guy to say, I got to come up here, hire somebody to help me
Yeah.
do it.
No, I agree.
Just out of curiosity, is there any reason why nobody wants to do it?
The guidelines, the scope of work, you have to perform to a standard. And, like, the commercial guys are busy, actually, there's a lot of commercial lending going on.
Okay.
And, yeah, no, there's,
Everybody.
I think the financing is going good for some of these guys,
Okay.
especially on the commercial level. Because all the commercial guys were flat out, we've got projects. And, residentially, it's a mix, but not very many want to be measuring houses in 0 degrees. So this time frame, the next couple of weeks, it might be cold, but you can do that hourly stuff that needs to be, put on the books. And it's assessment. It's value. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm still here.
Learn something? Write it down and I'll pass it later.
We're gonna get to it. We're gonna do this presentation,
You might already have, these are all in one sheet, but there's
the
a,
same, or is it?
yeah, well, there's on the back sheet, there's a time schedule that we need to talk about, we can talk about the time schedule. And I did change the priority because the first item is on the amendments list is the reason for doing this, so there's a slight change. The memo that I provided you with really gave the overview of what we're trying to accomplish. We want to update the fee schedule, and as we're working with the fee schedule, as I indicated in my memo, we have no mechanism to be able to collect the sketch fee for the site plans, where we invest a fair amount of human resource. And so therefore, we see projects that don't proceed further, and perhaps this will be something of a way to at least moderate some people who just want to fly a project for whatever their reason is and not move forward with it. So that's essentially driving the fact that we need to change the zoning amendment to include that language to allow us to be able to collect the sketch fee with the site plan reviews. And then CJ, as we were working with him, said, well, listen, if you're going to do a, change, and by the way, the ordinance amendments operate from, somebody from the public can come and ask for a zoning amendment change. The town board can appoint a committee to go ahead and pursue amending the zoning ordinance. The planning board can make a recommendation to you for a zoning amendment, such as what we just did recently with the planned development district overlay for the Menard property. Or you as a board, upon your own initiative, and it may come from staff to drive your initiative to amend the zoning ordinance. So that would be the pathway that we're proposing here. And CJ says, well, if you're going to do anything, why don't you see if you can slip in, move in some of the other items that you might want to do. So we've come up with 15 items. Now, this is not the specific language, and I don't know how you want to approach this. We'll still need to come back to you with language. Essentially, the first item here is is the sketch plan aspect of being able to acquire the fees. And then we go through adding some items to the allowed uses, either subject to special permit or to site plan review. So the second one is, we don't have car washes in our allowed uses. So these are absences of what we don't have for allowed uses. So car washes, laundromats, dry cleaning facilities, rail facilities, self-service storage facilities. Those first 5 items there, we would have a definition for those items, then we would add them to the use table for the use, or for the districts as they're noted in here.
Wouldn't you also do landscape contract?
Well, I'm just, because this isn't in that kind of a sequence, the next one on here, number 7, was actually, it's a map problem from when we did the last zoning ordinance. The map was erroneously indicated. It was intended to be the bar hotel out there.
Finn's Fun Farm.
Finn's Fun
Oh,
Farm.
Finn's Fun Farm.
That
It
whole
was,
parcel.
Yeah, it was approached that we had somebody that wanted to buy it and refurb it. Then we went to the map, you know, you just assume that's always been neighborhood commercial, and we looked at the map, so the mapper made it one parcel over to the left, so we would have had to get variances, doing everything, even though we discussed it verbatim, this is where we wanted it. One little, it's so tiny on the map, changed, not saying that he stopped doing it, but it halted him because he couldn't do it without going through ZBA and everything. And it was just such a small change, such a small error, but there's 2 of them on there. There are 2 of them on the list. I don't know if it's 14 or 15.
Mapping wise, yeah, it's
And then,
item number 14. And I don't, you know, honestly, I don't see this as something that requires a zoning amendment. This is 14, return the residential parcel on the Quarry Road. It looks like on the map that it's not part of the industrial district. It's, we actually believe it's a line weight issue, which is just a technical, but let's slip it in, we can take care of it with this. It should already, I mean, it should be able to just go in and correct the map and understand it as a map correction rather than as a map amendment. So we would include this in here. Tom was then asking about the landscape contractor definitions, just keeping that up there with those items about adding specific uses and definitions. The codes department has identified number 8, which is a glitch that we have in there to keep the dates of 45 rather, or 60 days rather than 45 days for temporary signs, so that the ordinance reads correctly throughout its entirety. Adding or revising the definition of a contractor storage, because if we do add landscape contractor as a type of use subject to site plan review, we're recommending that that also be in the neighborhood commercial district. But we don't want to see somebody utilizing the definition of a landscape contractor, you know, the guy who does grass mowing, and we'll get this guy right down here on Banker Road as a good example. You know, it fits in a neighborhood kind of thing without being a disturbance. But we would want, you know, somebody who's got 3 backhoes and 5 dump trucks and does site grading and consider that to be, you know, a landscape contractor. So we would make sure that the definition of landscape contract, or excuse me, of contractor storage yard was clear and we didn't run into a problem there. And so number 11 is just a real, it's a grammatical problem that we have in that particular section. Another, maybe perhaps grammatical, is making sure the codes has run into some issue with somebody saying, wait a second, your ordinance says right-of-way, and so they're using the entrance into Consumer Square, which is a private driveway, to be a right-of-way. We want to make it clear to read public right-of-way. So we would revise and clear that language up. Recycling facilities are being treated now under the local law, solid waste law. So we want to remove that from the use table and return it so that it's only considered under the local law. And then the last item is just a real minor. When we do site plan reviews, we ask for a bunch of different types of information. We historically always ask for the applicants to provide information about where their snow stockpile is going to be. We're just adding that into the list of required information. Now, So we will be constructing the language to go with these definitions and providing it back to you. What we would ask of you is if you've got, something that perhaps maybe you think that dry cleaning facilities shouldn't go in a commercial district. I don't think so, but if you happen to see something in here that raises your question, rather than getting, belabored into whether we should extend it or not, just if you'll speak with us, we can try to clear that up. We'll put this together in its final form, and so the second page then kind of lays out a schedule.
Well, can we go back to the first page so you can ask questions on that?
Sure.
It says add rail facilities. We talking about that in commercial? Want to add rail facilities?
No, it's in.
Not commercial.
IP, industrial park, A1 and A2, which are over
And
on,
it's not in anything right now.
no.
So we don't allow any.
Well, we haven't.
Well, I'm not, I'd have to go back and figure out how we did, I know how we did it. CP Rail and the city on Idaho Ave, where the spur comes across, put in a rail siding there. But that was zone airport at that time, which allowed that. Well, that's not what it is now.
And we have the rails siding off South Junction.
Yes, and that's an industrial district.
Right.
So the ones that are currently in there would be now conforming. We have the issue of what CP Rail did when we did the laydown, when they were doing the wind tower bases.
Yep.
Is that they came in kind of bamboozled us and say, no, it doesn't matter what your zoning is. What is it, 50 feet on each side of the track, we can do whatever we want. Kind of challenged them on that. Say, but why challenge them if the areas that, these ones that are laid out, they could do it? Make it fluent and not.
Airport,
not as
one,
people.
airport two, industrial.
Which would be on the base.
Park and industrial.
Yeah, in between where Bombardier goes back and forth, right next to the DPW, the city, where they have their area, laydown area. Was actually a transaction to make that happen, because now they do offload like pellets and other things there, so it works. It's in industrials. These are very, if you guys want to talk, on a side, each one of these are very intricate, detailed, looked at, and instead of stumbling blocks, where we can get caught in a ZBA where there's an as or an if or such as, some of those, it may seem minor, but it could tumble somebody up in interpretation in front of the ZBA. So, like I think Phil indicated, none of these are, my opinion, are earth-shattering. They're just formalities that we missed. And it's a lot of pages to not miss something.
And we knew when we adopted that there would be items that would come to light as we were working with stuff. But we wanted to get that adopted.
I think that we've, arrived at a point in the town's history. I think that years ago, there were amendments that were, jeepers, and when I first started working here in the mid-90s, there had been probably about 60 amendments. We've gotten away from, making minor changes. I think when we just recently did at the initiative of the planning board, when they were considering the Menard project, and they made a recommendation, that's the first time that I can recall the planning board initiated to you, the town board, to make a zoning amendment. So we're getting our arms around this process of making changes. That's why I've laid out the timeline for you. This is pretty much goes through what the steps are that are necessary here. I think that administratively, we can move through this fairly smoothly. There obviously is the public hearing component to this. It will be published and noticed for that opportunity if there is concern in the community to come in and be involved in that.
Well, and just when I'm starting to get done, I just have one question I want to ask you. I'm concerned about, or have some concern about the fees. Now, you said you're going to change the sketch plan fee.
Well, we don't have
have
one.
Okay, well, how much revenue do you guess that would generate?
Well, when I come back with the, I can't tell you how much it's going to
Just an
generate.
estimate.
I couldn't tell you that, but when I come back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some projects that we've done in the past.
Yeah.
So it's going to be zero, And it'll just give you a synopsis of projects, in terms of magnitude and what we would get from them. So that's what I want to do. I want to do some type of a table that will give you a comparison, because we're going to change a number of the fees. It will give you a comparison to what we've charged in the past and what it would be under the new schedule.
The new ones that you're gonna bring to us as an example, will you have some hours attached to it, as far as how much work planning department has put in hour-wise?
That's tough.
It-
You have
there-
so
it-
much.
There is no apples and oranges here. They are
All
every
apples?
different, they're just everything. You can take a small project that appears on the surface to be something simple, but let's say that it's got some access aspects to it that then involve, either easement components to it, or maybe some infrastructure components to it. All of a sudden, this project now takes on a different life as a small, little, simple project. I think that the town had this dilemma in the past with its water and sewer service fees for a water lateral, for example. Some projects you kind of covered within the cost of what the fee was, and other ones you lost your shirt. Well, we're not looking to lose our shirt here, but there's no way that you can set, there's no way that you can set these fees to go ahead and be so reimbursable. But what we clearly have in the language, and we're noting it in the fee schedule, is that if you've got a project that is giving itself the appearance that it's getting out of control fee-wise, you recover expense under the recoverable, reimbursable expense side, which we're currently doing with, any stormwater reviews. We go ahead and in the past, the town absorbed that fee that we would pay to LaBerge. We no longer do that, we now pass that on. The Graymont project right now, I was uncomfortable with the highway engineering review aspect of it. We farmed that out for a consulting review, we're gonna pass that expense on. I wanna be very careful to make sure that the language, and I think there, I've gotta go back, and I'm speeding a little bit in the sense here as I'm working the fee schedule. I wanna make sure that the language in the fee schedule gets that opportunity to recover administrative expenses.
Do you know,
And if it doesn't, we need to.
you know
get
just
it
a
in.
rough guess of what we take in fees?
No, it might embarrass you to think how much we take in. It's not a huge amount of money.
He's
But I
trying to
mean-
follow the code department and how we adjusted our fees to make sure they're trying to catch up.
Okay. But when's the last time you adjusted your fees?
Oh, it's been several years.
Would this
We
be-
actually have a bust right now, and I'd rather not go into the
But-
stupidity.
But
of
would
it.
this be an opportunity to make those adjustments?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Is exactly.
But I
what we're
mean,
trying to do.
I guess what I'm saying is, make judgments so they're somewhat relevant to the, I guess the thing that we're looking for here is, say, I've talked about this a lot of things, with water and everything, once you subsidize a service, you pass a tax on to the
Other-
homeowners.
Hmm?
And say if it's, I don't know, UPS or whatever, and they're, say, spending a lot of your valuable time, they should pay for that as opposed to passing it on to homeowners.
Right, but I don't mean to interrupt you, but if you set a fee schedule based on the per project, and I think that Phil alluded to this, you're gonna discourage a small developer from coming in here because you're gonna price them out of a project. UPS,
Where would
yeah,
they
they
go?
can, they'll go to another town.
Texas.
They can go to Peru, they can go to Beekmantown and be really close to Plattsburgh and not have to deal with
Well,
that.
I don't, put it like, you may be right, I don't know.
There is that issue.
I
Yeah,
can't,
but they go to Beekman.
Yeah,
I
Beekmantown's
can't-
got
I-
industrial parks.
okay, let me just get a word in, okay, you don't mind?
I'm sorry.
All right, I can't envision any project of any size saying they're gonna charge another $200 or $300 in town of Plattsburgh, so let's move it to Beekmantown. It's just inconceivable.
Move to Texas.
Well, I don't disagree with you.
I mean, I
And
just.
you're gonna see that proposal. We're going to change the structure of how we break down these fees. And if we start, through our experience, seeing up front, there will be language in there to, just like in our telecommunications, to establish that escrow account. You're gonna, for certain projects, you're going to establish an escrow account.
I think, no, I'm all for that, I'm just saying that, sometimes they say perfect is the enemy of good, And sometimes if you can't have a perfect system, which is impossible, then you don't do anything. I don't mean you
No.
personally. So I'm just saying, I don't think people locate in other towns because of your fees. I just don't think that that would ever occur, any more than I don't think people, unless a very special business, go to a community because maybe the water's a little bit cheaper or something like that. So I think that, I think the town of Plattsburgh provides incredible service vis-a-vis anybody else. I think we have skill and so forth. I think we have to charge for it. Other than that, we do charge for it, except who's gonna pay, the person who's getting the benefit or the...
That's why I intend to give to you an example of what we're currently under, a variety of projects. Let's say take 15 projects, what they are under the current schedule, that are real, and then compare them to a newer. And, so what it is I don't think that there's a perfect formula.
There isn't.
And so, for example, and we haven't seen this yet because the subdivision side took such a tremendous drop in 2008, but when the last adjustment was made, you moved the recreation fee from $50 to $250. If you're doing a 20-lot subdivision at 250 versus 50, it's a big jump. But it's been on the books now for quite a while. It hasn't been exercised because nobody's been doing 20
Nobody's
lot
doing
subdivisions.
250 lots.
But we are getting, larger projects that I look to bring up the amount that we're charging. And right now, we're getting 0 for sketches.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that we should have some macro view or some parameters. Let us say your expenses of your office are X. Then maybe we should have a goal that the fees would get 40% of X. Or something like that, just so you have this, there may be a gap or something. I just think that any time that you don't do that, you just kind of, or the recreational part.
Well, some of this is, how much incremental increase can you make, right? So, for example, special permits right now are, I think, $200 or $250. I've changed that structure entirely now because the special permit is something that you have to give a little more attention to. The board has the ability to even say, no, but right, $250 flat for everybody. Well, that's not, so now I've broken it down by our use table, which breaks out like 5 different categories of types of use, and then I also within them incrementally. So we should see an increase in the, but you never know. One year you might get 25 special permit projects, and the next year you only get 10. But at least let's do something that reflects for individual projects an opportunity to recover.
Depending on what you're trying to advance to, I'd like to see a comparison of some of the counter towns and such, to give us a
You
sense.
can't, locally in Clinton County, you can't go to Clinton County. You have to go down into Saratoga
No,
area.
no, I realize
And
that.
so here's what I find. There is no systematic way that the fees are structured from community to community. They are all over the place. Literally, they are all over the place. And then you also have the aspect that towns have a tiered system where there's in-house review, and then there's reviews that are, the entire reviews are farmed out. And then you have to understand how the structure of that department operates for that process to work. I've tried hard to see if I could find some way of seeing things consistently. So now all I can do is just use my judgment and experience in what I see in other communities and try to tailor it to us here without going way off. So we should be doing this annually. We should
Just
be
out of
visiting.
curiosity, what are Saratoga's fees, any idea? Are they high, low, medium?
Are you talking about the city or the town? So
The city.
offhand, I can't.
Okay,
I
I'm
can't
just
tell
saying,
you,
it
but
seems
what
like such a well-run, I don't know.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, is, I agree, it may be some apples and oranges, but if you come in, and say, let's start charging $500, and that's what's going on in Saratoga, and then people are starting to have a conversation, milling around and stuff like that, it gives us a little bit of a benchmark. It starts,
I'm going to try to
it
give
primes
you-
the pump of the narrative, is all I'm saying.
I'm going to
So-
try to, solicit out, and it's, I have to update the schedule that I'm working with to get these other communities so that I can come up with some cost comparisons. The philosophy that had existed here in the town for years, and I've been here for years, has been that there's a certain cost of doing business in the town, albeit, fiscal constraints being what they are. But one of the things that this department, the planning department, does is brings in and attracts and works with projects to go ahead and increase the total assessed valuation in the town. The problem is, you know, how much can you bear to go ahead and get that upfront portion, you know, that continues to build that total assessed valuation that you'll see back in other, you know, at other points that you need. So you know, what's the balancing point? I'm not sure that there is a good formula for that, but I'll bring you something.
Okay.
Stephen's gonna be bringing you something for because what we're doing is breaking this out from the code side, and Stephen's going to be approaching differently than I will, the county property in respect to fees that are through the codes and zoning and building permit process.
I think Mike had a good point. If you do have some benchmarks, and just say,
Yeah.
like, if you have 4 towns and one charges, you know, you
I'm
say.
not gonna use Clinton County.
Pardon me?
I'm not gonna use Clinton
We don't have
County.
any other Class A towns.
That's what, when we.
Oh, no, but
currently
there's
did,
Class A towns outside of Clinton County.
But that's what I'm talking about.
yeah.
We said,
Yeah.
within Clinton
I-
County, there are no Class
when we
A.
updated
And
our
I trust the approach that you're taking on looking at the tentative timeline. I like it. I don't think it's too aggressive. I mean, in draft format and stuff, I want to see some definitions that you're coming up with, but I also want to see, you know, what other communities, you know, in your wheelhouse are you selecting
Mhm.
to say, hey, this is what I'm using as my reference point, you know, so.
Oh, they would be like Wilton, they're gonna be down in the Saratoga area,
Sure.
Clifton Park.
We did the same thing when we revised in 2010 for our fees. We used Queensberry
Oh,
City.
Yeah,
And,
Queensbury, yeah.
We used them. We were a cheap thrill compared to what they were building for down there. We're giving the farm away. We adjusted and we're still under there. Now with the thought that we are now going to be taxed with the county properties, readjusting those fees also. But it's difficult adjusting when you're taking on county properties compared to municipal properties. But we had to take, CJ and I sat down, it was a vast, some were, like Phil said, were way out of line. We couldn't even use Lake Placid. Their billing permit fees were, I almost want to say 200% more than what ours were. But you're different, it was a different atmosphere, different commercial than what would bear down here. So like he said, we have to use, we found that medium, went below it, and it's worked. We haven't had any pushback. I haven't had anybody saying, you know, it's still like you're getting a quality service for what you're justifying or what the market can bear. So it's a lot of research to try to get to those
Yeah.
fees.
Yeah.
So, once you get the sketch plans under this, have fees, you certain fee for that, and I assume that the ones that are subject to site plan review, that's a separate,
That's what we're talking about. Under the
Then-
site plan review,
Okay.
there's sketch and there's
and there's
detailed.
special use permit.
Special use permit.
For like the car washes and rail.
Those will have so there will be, in addition to the site plan fee, they will also have a special permit fee if they require a special permit.
Okay, and so those particular things will be regulated because they'll have to have a special permit and it'll be approved by the planning board.
And what I've done is, I've very carefully gone into, so for example, we don't have a PDD fee. So, you know, we're going to make sure that we get a PDD fee in there. There's no fee in there, the town does not have a fee for zoning amendments. If a petitioner from the community wants to, so for example, Chris Labarge, I did a lot of work associated with
I
that.
couldn't agree with you more.
So-
That's the problem. We should
Yeah,
get
we
money for what
we
we do.
recognize that at a staff, you know, department level. We'll be bringing you back and we're, you know, with the idea of trying to get this language changed to allow the sketch fee, then we'll also be simultaneously bringing to you the sketch
So
fee.
that'll be like the 24th or something like that that you'll be doing now.
I haven't actually looked at that in respect to this. We gotta get the ordinance changed first before we can act on that. I mean, I've been working on this, right this week I've gotta finish off planning board for next week, so once I can get the planning board stuff out of the way, I'll be back to doing the.
To me, it looks like it's all good things that we need to do, and I don't see any problem in any of them.
Got any questions about any of them, just give us a call.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
Good job, Phil.
Thank you,
Thank you
Steve.
both.
Everyone,
Mr. Coffey, you're up, removal of snow and ice.
Okay, I think we all talked a little bit earlier that there is a problem in the town with people who plow and put snow and ice on our sidewalks. And then the town has the expense of going out and cleaning those sidewalks so that people can use them. The highway superintendent suggested that we have a local law, which I have a draft that I've distributed, and the local law requires that if there's debris, snow or ice are pushed on the sidewalk, that the person can be fined, and that's going to be enforced by the supervisor, that'd be great, the superintendent of highways.
Supervisor too, remember we decided that?
I guess you're right, yeah. Or the deputy superintendent, and possibly the crew chief. Is it crew chief, or what's the term? Crew chief? So, those would be
Those
people,
crew supervisors.
crew supervisors, those would be the three parties that would be able to do it. The only, when I was just looking at it here, just talking with Jerry, I know the judges like a little bit of flexibility in the fine, so we put in something, a fine not more than 150, or not, I'll put in not more than $250 for a second conviction. Thing of it is, it's a separate offense for each day that goes on, so it gives the judge an opportunity, if someone is being, say, abusive and just shrugging their shoulders, they'll know that it's something that will certainly work against them and will have some teeth, so.
Is there a reason we wouldn't have codes participate in the process for enforcement?
They didn't want to, and they're extremely opposed to it.
And we're not, and that's not out of the mix.
Okay, I
Yeah, no, that's just down
You know, it may be, we talked a little bit about it around the office today, and it may not be a good idea to have a local law where elected officials are the people who are charged with the enforcement, but you may want to have your codes people doing that. And I think the bulk of this law is going to be handled by job owning. They're going to go out, they're going to talk to people who own property along the commercial areas, and that's really where it's aimed. Can't make it too clear. It's not aimed at residential properties. There will be some residential properties along the sidewalk areas, say on Route 22, say into Morrisonville, in there, where those people, you know, are expected to, once those sidewalks have been cleared, you know, they're not to fill those sidewalks in. But that's not a problem area, when I talk with Jim and his people. But they will go out and they will talk with the business people. And where the problem is when the business owner changes who his provider is. If they've convinced the provider who's doing the plowing that, hey, don't be plowing pushing the snow over the driveway, over the sidewalks, you know, push the snow back. Okay, and if you gotta push it to the back of the lot, push it to the back of the lot. But you get a new plower in there, and you know, the guy wants to push it over the sidewalk because that's the shortest distance, and whatever. Well, the owner of the property is going to be the person who's going to be charged with the violation. And so the owner of the property will be provided with information about what the law will look like, and they will be, you know, cautioned that they need to make sure that whoever they have doing the work for them understands that they can't push the snow over them. And then if they have a problem, they can go out and they can provide the warning of the violation. And then if it continues to be a problem, then a citation will be issued.
In this particular one, it says Schedule A, this is what we're proposing for a law, right?
Correct.
Okay, so the first part says it's to be the policy of the town,
Correct.
and then it says the following parties should be responsible for violations of this local law. It's a law. I mean,
What's your question?
it's a law of the town of Plattsburgh, not the policy.
Well, it's both.
Well,
This is our policy, and this is the way I've seen it done many times. With all these things, I mean, I think it's silly to look at technicality, as long as it's clear and people understand it. This is a local law, and we're saying this is a policy, and What we're doing essentially is we're codifying our policy. We have a policy, and we're putting it into our code of law.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's not an unusual way to do it.
Just one more thing we need to reiterate, we've talked about this, because I for one misunderstood it the first time. This is not an attempt to try and get the public or corporations to clean our sidewalks for us. We'll be cleaning our own sidewalks. This is an attempt to make sure that once they've been cleaned, they are not filled back in as a result of somebody trying to clear their driveway, their parking lot, whatever. It's not an attempt to pass the buck, so to speak, as far as the clearing of our driveways, sidewalks.
Only misinterpreted that would be because we had this Article 5 that's the city that's talking about removing snow. We already removed the snow, so it's just a matter of, don't put it
back.
And we're not, and we're in no way approaching this in any fashion related to how the city
Will we be able to
approaches.
find the state as they call their
That will be the one area that will be, that will continue to be a problem. It won't lend itself to jawboning, although, believe me, you know, the Department of Transportation does not want the highway superintendent in the town of Plattsburgh all pissed off. Okay? It's not in their best interest. About as simple as that. So, our highway superintendent will be talking to the Department of Transportation about how they're handling snow removal on Route 3.
And he's also planning, I believe, talking to business owners all the way along Route 3 to make sure they understand.
Yeah.
So not only will it be mailed to them or whatever, but they'll also have personal
Yeah.
contact.
And he's looking to do the bulk of what he'll be doing of an educational process in the, you know, the latter part of the summer, as, you know, some kind of, you know, kind of, as the fall is
Hopefully,
approaching.
if we have the summer, that would be the case.
Yes, that would be, you know, we'll hope we have some. Okay. All right. Anybody have any other questions on that particular item?
Nope.
Okay. In your packets, you should have a letter informing you of Gene Gwinnup's intent to retire. And he's serving notice that he's looking forward to a life of retirement.
Are they allowed to retire in that part?
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, I think, Tom, you were one that tried hard to get that removed from their collective bargaining agreement, but you weren't successful. They are allowed to retire.
Obama wants it.
Okay. So anyway, that's where we're at on that. Now, we do have a couple resolutions that we'd like to address. One resolution, which should be in your packets, is Resolution 1471, which is an abstract resolution. It's in here somewhere.
Right after Gene Gwinnett trouble.
Unless you messed them up like mine, where there's, could be anywhere.
Yeah.
But I think
Here we are.
that's pretty recommendations.
Okay, have you got your resolutions? Ricky, read 1471, please.
Resolved that the abstract of audited claims number 2B-1, 2013, numbers 2965 to 2978 for $22,047.13, abstract 2B-14, 127 to 147 for $319,110.21. Excuse me. Abstract 2B-14, 62 to 68 prepays for the amount of $2,072,848. And as be received as reviewed by the audit committee and the supervisors hereby authorized to pay said abstract.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Renadette,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Cashman. Any discussion?
Any problems?
Roll call?
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Mark Mannix?
Yes.
Michael Cashman?
Yes.
Gerard Renadette?
Yes.
Bernie Bassett's absent.
Carried. And, third item is Resolution 1472, which is at the front end of the presentation on the request for the independent contractor for the assessors.
Whereas the town of Plattsburgh has identified a need for additional real property data collection service, and after requesting proposal from qualified contractors, the assessing department wishes to enter into an agreement with appraisal services to provide service as noted in the attached agreement for a fee not to exceed $30,000. Now therefore be resolved that the town of Plattsburgh, a municipal corporation organized and existing under and by the virtue of the laws of New York State, with offices and principal place of business on 151 Baker Road, Plattsburgh, New York, party of the first part, and appraisal services, the contractor, now with offices at 9 Maple Ridge Drive, West AZ, New York, 12992, party of the second, wish to enter into an agreement for services as indicated. And it is further resolved that appraisal services is an independent contractor and shall not be considered an employee or agent of the town. And as a contractor is hereby prohibited from assigning, transferring, conveying, subletting, or otherwise disposing of this agreement, or the right of title or interest herein. And it be further resolved that after review by the town attorney, the supervisor is duly authorized and empowered to execute an agreement on behalf of the town of Plattsburgh. And that a copy of this resolution shall be given to the budget officer and town assessor.
You have a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Wood,
Second.
second. Councilor Renadette. Any discussion?
No, just as I pointed out before, though, this is second year in a 6-year plan to physically do each parcel in the town, and it's required by signed agreement in the state.
Roll call?
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Mannix,
Yes.
Michael Cashman.
Yes.
Gerard Renadette.
Yes.
Carried. Those are the resolutions. You have the minutes that will be addressed at the meeting on the 24th. You've got the Building and Ground Safety Committee report, the Planning Department monthly report, the Town Clerk's monthly report, the Water Wastewater Department's monthly report, Gene Winnup's letter to retire, and a request for 3% site plan refund on the Moonstone Ford product or project. Okay. Do we have any committee reports to be presented?
Not this time.
No,
Not at this time.
you available on the 24th?
We can chat afterwards.
We're gonna have
Board
an
meeting
ambulance
Thursday.
committee meeting on Thursday
Yeah.
afternoon. Okay. All right, I want you to know you're taking precedent over the governor, okay?
Cool.
I'm gonna tell you, he asked, he said, would you attend? And I said, no, Jerry beat you to it.
He's welcome to come and listen in if they want, but there'll be no interrupting.
You might learn something.
I forget, who's on the safety committee?
I am.
Are we on it together?
Yes.
Because something I talked to Bernie about, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, when we did a safety report,
I wanna see what's being done with it.
thank you. I think we need to sit down and just reinforce that with Art, that, you know, for every accident, there should be some kind of remedial action taken to try to see to it that doesn't happen again.
Yep.
Especially number one on that list where the town supervisor slipped and fell in the north entrance.
Never know that happened.
You gotta make sure he wears the.
Slip, pushed,
So he's,
He's gotta wear something on the
no
bottom
more
of his shoes
drinking
there, you know?
before work.
Crampons or something on the bottom of his shoes, or
Yeah.
he can get through the front door there.
But that's something that was asked for before, and I know a notice went out reminding, it wasn't on this report, so I'd just like to see something done.
Okay. Meeting is adjourning at 8:23.